Hey, Marion Swingler here of Confident You Podcast. Excited for this episode yet again. It is about to be an amazing time in this space. Okay, so, Prince, rest in peace, of course. Prince, when he was 15 years old, they came to him and wanted him, music industry came to him and they wanted him to sign a contract. He did not. He did not because they did not want him to produce his own music. He waited 4 years before he signed that contract. Years later, he then walked around with the word slave on the side of his face because he felt like being with the record label for him in the contract he was in was bondage because he did not own his masters, which means they owned everything. He would not be reaping the benefits of it for the rest of his life, even though after his third album, he created everything in his own studio. He didn't use their studio. He didn't take the big bonus check before they gave it to him. He started distributing his music on social media. First, he had a case against them, YouTube and platforms like that had music. He had a case against them to get his music taken down because he felt like, okay, I'm getting ripped off again. Then move into the next thing. He started distributing it on that way. He made it known to me. That was the first artist that made it known to me about being an independent artist. I guess because he was so big, let me just say, just in case you haven't realized, that's my favorite artist. So he made being independent known on a much bigger platform. So getting into independence and being an artist, the artistry of independence. I have here with me tonight an artist, a producer, a songwriter, a music creator, a collab king. I'm just saying, I'm excited to have him here with me tonight. So here to unpack the artistry of independence with me tonight is AJ Throwback.
What's going on, my sister? How you doing this evening?
I'm doing excellent now that I see you. I'm excited. I've been excited since you accepted the invitation to come on. So I'm just excited to be here to be able to discuss the independent things of being an artist.
Yes, indeed.
So how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast tonight. I mean, this is an excellent podcast. Let me say that off the break. Like, I would have swore you has been podcasting for years. The professionalism, like just how polished it is. Like, I just got to give you your props off the rip.
My goodness. Well, I appreciate that. Coming from you, the person who I can say helped me, gave me, just went through it with me so that I would make sure that I got off on the right foot, running in the right direction. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So let's get into this independence. First, can you just give me, what is your definition of independence for an artist?
So, because it has, and I'm glad that you asked that question, because it has to be established that independence is not the same thing as self-made, which is a term I honestly hate, but that's another conversation for another day. But independence is independent of the major label circuit. So you could have it could be you just doing a lot of it. You have your own label, or you could be on a label that is an independent label. You may not own it, but they're independent of, say, like the Sonys and the Columbias and the Warner Brothers and the Atlantics, like those type of labels. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to say a label like Empire is an independent label. There's another one, I think it's AWAL, something like that. I remember these artists that I had on my old show, they ended up being on that label and it helped to kind of sort of broaden their horizons as artists. But they had a certain amount of pull that the artists didn't have on their own, but not quite to the level of, say, like a major, but more than they would have had on their own. You know what I'm saying? So that's really like the definition of independence. It's not you doing everything by yourself. Mm-hmm. It's just the fact that you as an artist is independent from the major label circuit.
Independent from the major label circuit. So that independent, while it is priceless, it's not free.
That's right.
What do you feel an artist needs to invest to be able to be a successful? And success looks different to everyone.
Right.
So successful art.
Right. So, I mean, the first thing is time. Mm-hmm. Like, it's easy to say money, but I think the first thing is your time. Because as an independent artist, you're going to be doing a whole lot more than, say, somebody who is at a major label. When you're at a major label, you don't have to worry a lot of times about marketing. Somebody is marketing it. You know, they have a marketing department. You don't have to necessarily worry about A&R. You'll have an A&R. You have an arts and repertoire person that'll, you know, help with all of that in terms of figuring out what your direction is as an artist, what music is best for you, you know, all of these different things. I'm trying to think. There's a lot. Basically, with a major, you have a lot of things done for you that you don't have to worry about spending the time doing. But when you're an independent artist, even if you're on a label, say like the ones I named, like Empire, E1, which used to be Koch, labels like that are more independent, but they put a little bit more in your lap to do because, you know, it's independent, and they'll put some muscle behind it, but they're not going to put all the same muscle that a major is going to do. So time, you have to invest your time. You have to invest your time in not only the creation of the art, but you also have to invest your time in terms of your own promotion. You have to be your biggest promoter. You have to be your biggest salesperson before anybody else can sell you. You know, like, you have to know how to sell yourself. You have to put time into, like I said, the promotion, but also like going to the studio. Like, you have to be the one that says, okay, I need to go to the studio. Nobody's going to like put a battery in your back and make you go to the studio. Like, you have to be the one to say, I got to do it. And then when you think about all of those things, when you think about the creation process, when you think about going to the studio, when you think about the time invested in promotion, when you think about the time invested into handling the business side, because a lot of times artists want to focus on the art, but when you're independent, you have to focus even more so on the business aspect of it. So it behooves an independent artist to understand the whole thing about copyrights, to understand the whole thing about royalties. And when it comes down to royalties, at one time it was just, say, your ASCAPs, your BMIs, your, like, what they call the pros, the performance rights organizations. You had to focus on just the ASCAPs and BMIs at one point, but now it's not just the ASCAPs and BMIs. You have to focus on things like sound exchange. You have to focus on things like getting the BDS, making sure that if you're getting your music played on radio, that it's registered with BDS so that it can be tracked by whatever radio station is playing your music. And then that involves your music having to be tagged properly, the metadata, as they call it. You got to make sure that all of the information, your ISRC numbers, your UPC codes, the name of the track, that is properly named, that you as the artist, that all of that information is put on it, whatever album it belongs to, whether it's a single, whether it's part of an album, the track number, the genre, all of that information, the publishing, making sure all of that information is attached to that one track, because if it's missing anything, you're missing out on money. You know what I'm saying? But that's time that you have to put into it, and money. Now, then we get to the money, because all this stuff costs, you know. So that's the only thing about being an independent artist, is that, I mean, it's going to be money no matter what, whether you want a major or whether you're independent. The difference between being independent and being major is that when you're on a major, a lot of times it's like basically being with a glorified loan shark. You know what I'm saying? Like, they'll loan you a certain amount of money, and a lot of times like artists think, oh, like I'm just getting this money. No, you got to pay that back. You got to pay that back. So that's
pay that back.
Yeah. You got to pay that back. I will never forget. For anybody out there who wants to have an illustration of what it costs to be on a major versus being independent, there's this movie. I think the name of the movie is called Artifact. It's about the band 30 Seconds to Mars. It is one of the most life-changing movies that I have ever seen for myself as an artist, that solidified being independent, because you just look at what you continue to owe a record company, a major record company. I mean, a lot of times you'll get into it even with like kind of the bigger independent labels, but with a major, it's even worse, because it's like if you don't make the cut with how much you sell on an album, you end up deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole, you know? And it's just like, it's almost like getting a Sally Mae loan. You know what I'm saying? Only worse.
I didn't think anything was worse than a Sally Mae.
Oh, trust you get on a major. You get on a major, it's worse than a Sally Mae loan.
You caught me with that one. I think that that is something that a lot of people are very vocal about. TLC. Extremely vocal about how things went with their money and the fact that they had nothing, even though they had sold millions.
Yep.
So the independence lane is something that a lot of people are falling into. T.I. broke up with his major label. He's running it independent. There's Chance the Rapper. I think he does some independent, or did he start independent?
He is independent. Like the beautiful thing about Chance the Rapper is that Chance the Rapper is one of the few artists who to win a Grammy as an independent artist. Like, it doesn't happen all the time. Like, usually when people win Grammys or they win awards at those high levels, they're on somebody's major label.
Yes. Even Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace. Even Nipsey Hussle, the way that he did that, he had one album, he sold it for how much? And Jay-Z bought how many?
I want to say that was the album, that was the Crenshaw album, and I want to say he sold it for $100, and I think Jay-Z might have bought 100 copies, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the number.
My goodness. So it's just amazing how successful you could be as an independent artist. Now we're going to focus on the man that we have here. AJ Throwback. But I want to start with you sharing about who this is.
That guy. That guy. Yeah, that guy. So that guy, just innocent, didn't really know much about the world. But even before that, I would probably say, if we're going from just that point of life, I've always had a love for music.
Well, that's you.
Yes, so that's me. That's me. That guy is me. Yeah, I eventually grew into my head. The rest of my body grew into my head. Yeah, but yeah, that guy has always been into music. My dad, may he rest in power. He was a DJ, and that really started off like my love affair with music. Like, he would always have records lying around. He had his own room. This might have been when we were living at Oxon Hill. This might have been when we were at Colonial Village. And, he had his own room for just DJing and everything. And I would go in a room and all the time bother him while he's in there DJing. And like just the records that he had laying around, like, I mean, I just remember Michael Jackson, of course, Whitney Houston, the Whitney Houston picture where everybody thought that she was like bald headed, and then like, you know, you see the video, like where all that hair come from, you know, but then you realize her hair was just pulled back. That's all it really was. You know, I didn't realize that till I was older. You know, I always tell that story. But Cameo, Phil Collins, my dad always talks about how, like, you know, us celebrating 50 years of hip hop this year. My dad always talks about how, like, I was a huge Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 fan when I was like that small. So yeah, you know, the message, you know, that was my song when I was like that small. So
when you were that small,
when I was that small.
All right. Yeah. So when you were that small, that was the message. The fact that we're going back into times, really old school she is. AJ Throwback. Please explain the name, sir.
So the throwback part, that's what I got first. Shout out to my best friend in the whole wide world, my man Country, who, you know, we went to Hobart and William Smith colleges together. We had a radio show together. It was my first time in radio, and I'm glad that, like, that is like kind of the springboard of Throwback, because I wasn't going as Throwback back then. I was going as Youngblood. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, but then like he gave me the name Throwback because he was like, you know, you just got a throwback style to you. And everybody would say that, but he was the one that actually named it. Okay. And so because I knew there were other throwbacks out there, I was like, okay, I can't just be Throwback. So I have to do something to differentiate myself from everybody else. So the AJ eventually would stand for Authentic Joe. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever you think of a throwback, the best throwbacks is not the replicas, it's the authentic jersey, the one that got the good stitching and all of that stuff in it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I had to be Authentic Joe Throwback. So boom, AJ Throwback was born.
Okay, so authentic. Okay, Authentic Joe. Let's talk. So back then you gave some artists that would be, to me, I would consider that the soundtrack for that time in your life.
Yeah. Moving
forward, because you are a hip hop artist,
yes,
you are a rapper, directly. I'm nostalgic because you brought up everything. I'm just remembering the first hip hop song I heard on the radio. Sugar Hill Gang.
Yep.
Rapper's Delight.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
So they did, and that video had disco in it.
Mm-hmm.
And Run DMC did a collabo, and they did theirs with Aerosmith, so that had rock in it.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you, as an artist, like to do a collaboration with?
Oh, that's a good question. It changes so much over time. At one time, it was my favorite rapper, Jay-Z. I still wouldn't mind doing a collaboration with Jay-Z. At this point of my career, though, that's tough because, you know, I listen primarily to like independent artists. So there's so many independent artists that I want to work with. But if I had to pick somebody that's like a legend.
Okay, so wait, the thing that you pick is the opposite genre.
Oh, it's the opposite genre. Ooh.
They have rock.
Now we getting into something. Okay. Oddly enough, I don't know why they the first ones to come in mind. Maybe because I like what they did with the song Money, because it was in such a weird time signature. You don't hear about 7/4 time signatures very often. Pink Floyd. The fact that they did a song in a 7/4 time signature, I like picking songs with weird kind of tweaks to them. Yeah. I have a single called The Lincoln and Lincoln Job Fair. And so the thing about that song is that it doesn't keep like the same exact pace the whole song. It's like It's one little thing that kind of sort of throws you off every now and then depending on what I say. So it's like, okay, you can't get too comfortable with that beat, but it still goes back into a pocket. You know what I'm saying? And like, I learned that art from Pink Floyd's song Money, from their legendary album, The Other Side of the Moon. Okay. And so, like, yeah, I guess Pink Floyd, they would be the ones that I would want to work with.
Pink Floyd would be that is amazing. Okay. So explain this quote to me.
Okay.
You're never late as long as you arrive.
You've been doing your homework. Okay. I like this. So you're never late as long as you arrive. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in, and it's so crazy because I was just having a conversation with one of my homies, A.I. Lee, about, I think one of his trepidations was he didn't want to get to a point where he felt like he was too old, or no, he said, I'm getting older, not younger. And the thing that I told him in response was something that Chuck D said. He was doing a interview with Robert Christgau of The Village Voice. This was back in 1991. And the thing that he said that stuck out to me was, I'm using my age as a weapon. And so whenever I think about, a lot of times we get to a certain age and we feel like we have to rush because we feel like our time is running out. And the bottom line is that our time only runs out when our time runs out. Until that time, we have plenty of time to do what God has called us to do. And so the bottom line is that all it calls for us to do is get to that point, to do all of the work, to put all the faith into getting to that point, and God will handle the rest. You know what I'm saying? So, because with his timetable, he doesn't recognize time. So the thing is, are you really late? As long as you're there.
Are you really late as long as you're there? Okay. All right. Okay. That is very unique. Are you ever late as long as you're there? Now I see the depth of that quote. I want to know, do you possibly, for new artists, do you possibly have a blueprint that they could use to get started?
Yes. The biggest thing with an independent artist, again, you have to, I mean, it's very easy to focus on the fact that you're doing a lot of this stuff on your own. But there are so many resources out here for independent artists to do whatever it is that they need to do to be successful. From the business aspect, because I always like to focus on the business first. Make sure that whatever you put out, before you put it out in the public, copyright.gov, go to get your stuff copyrighted. It's still important in 2023 to get your stuff copyrighted. So copyright.gov, go there, get your stuff copyrighted. Get yourself an ASCAP account. And I would suggest, don't just get an artist or a writer account, get a publisher account too. Now it's going to run you, like whether it's ASCAP, whether it's BMI, it's going to run you a certain amount to be both. But when you do both, you don't leave any money on the table. You get your money as a writer or composer, you get your money as a publisher. So I would suggest that. That's another aspect of it. Make sure that you register your music with Sound Exchange. So Sound Exchange, they handle more of the digital side of releases. So when you are releasing your music, like if you have your stuff on Spotify, Apple Music or whatever, like you get stuff added to playlists, or you're just in the digital space regardless. Sound Exchange is good to make sure that like those royalties are handled from there. So that's another step. I'm trying to think and this is all before you release your song. Like this is all stuff that should be done before you release anything to the public. Make sure all of this stuff is handled. Do not press send. Do not go to DistroKid, TuneCore, United Masters, CD Baby, any of these people until these steps are done. You know what I'm saying? Then once you handle the business part of it, you make sure all of the paperwork and all of the royalties and all of that stuff is taken care of. Then you focus more of your energy on when you get it to the digital distribution, like DistroKid, like United Masters, like TuneCore, like CD Baby. It all depends on what works best for you. I've had experience with CD Baby. I've had experience with DistroKid. I've had experience with United Masters. I probably will shift more of my energy to United Masters because I like how they do things, but it doesn't really matter. But the digital distribution aspect is beautiful in the independent age because it basically allows you to control which outlets your music go to. Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube Music, all of these different outlets, Deezer, Pandora, like all of these different outlets, you actually get to decide which ones your music can go to. Then they have other things where, like with Tidal, like you can get your stuff mastered through like DistroKid. United Masters might have the same thing, but just to make your music more competitive, like there are resources out there for everybody to make your music competitive in this space. But before even that, please make sure that you get your music properly mixed, properly mastered before you even release it to anybody. That's absolutely key, because if you really want to compete in the space as an independent artist, the better your stuff sounds, the better you have a chance to really compete. And I don't just mean like the beats. I don't mean just like the sound of your voice. How well is it mixed and mastered? Because it does matter. You know, like there are people who are paying attention to that stuff and we don't even realize how much they're paying attention to it, but it's absolutely key. So please make sure that you get with an engineer who knows what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Engineer that knows what they're doing. How would you know that?
Listen to your favorite music. Listen to how their stuff sounds, and then compare what you do against what they do. And if you can even get close to that level in terms of your stuff sounding that way, in terms of like, you can listen to the car test, listen on your headphones, your earbuds, listen on some cheap speakers, listen on every type of source. It's an engineering trick actually, but like listen to your music on every possible sound source you can against what is out there in the industry. And if your stuff sounds even close to that, then you're on the right track. If it doesn't, yeah, you're gonna have to find somebody else or get a little bit more out of the person that you're working with. You know what I'm saying? So like there are ways that you can kind of sort of do it without having to pay an arm and a leg to figure out what your stuff sounds like versus what the industry stuff sounds like. But you have to put in, it goes back to time, putting in the time to make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do to be able to compete in this space, you know. So
priceless but not free. My goodness. Right. Yeah. Time, money, industry, energy, to be able to listen. After you do that over time, that kind of trains your ear to be able to hear it. So that first time it may be challenging, but you keep doing it and it'll become easier.
Yes.
So how do you, as the artist that you are, DMV known, you perform on different stages, you're invited to speak in different locations. How do you, when music comes to you, how do you feel it comes to you, and what do you do with it when you receive it?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, first and foremost, it comes to me through God. God gives me all of my ideas, and I sit with it. Like sometimes, depending on what I get, one of the biggest things I do as a producer, if I get an idea, immediately I record it. And I don't mean like, actually play it out. Like I have a voice memo on my phone and I record the idea. Like I beatbox the idea so that I don't forget what it sounds like. I don't forget the tempo that I want it to be at. I can remember all of the different nuances that I may have from the beginning and then build upon it from there. That's with the production aspect of it. As a writer, God gives me ideas all the time of like songs to do, and it's usually like based off of things that I'm going through in my life. I feel like that's just the best music, like life experience music. That's really my brand, is that I create life experience music. And so a lot of times, like, it starts with me writing down whatever the song is. Sometimes I'll get like almost like an outline of how I want to approach it. Like I might get what I want to talk about in the first verse, the second verse, the third verse. Sometimes it's just a general idea. Other times it'll be just like random bars that I'll get, like, okay, this is going to be a great line for specifically this song. And so I write it down, like write everything down, record everything. I can't tell you how many times that I've had an idea, and because, you know, something happens or I get distracted by this or just get distracted by that, it's like, oh man, I lost that beat, or oh man, I lost that bar. It's like, no, like I write everything down, everything. I don't care, like if it's like one line, I write it down. And that's something that I learned. That's an art that I learned from one of my schoolmates. I won't say friend, because he wasn't very well liked by a lot of people in our school. But I will give the brother props for this, that he always told me, write everything down. Like even if it's one bar, you never know what you're going to use that bar for. And since that was like back in 2001, he gave me that advice. Ever since then, that's what I've been doing with literally everything. So that's what I do with the ideas, the music, the energy that I get. I always find some way to memorialize it or commemorate it so that I have use for it later.
Yes. So that everyone knows you a little better. When did you start rapping? When did you start doing the independent you?
Well, when I started rapping is different from when I started the independent journey. When I started rapping, the first time I wrote a rhyme, this was like 96. But I didn't put out my first actual anything as an independent artist until 2009. My first mixtape was called Legend of the Fall, and I was just a fan of so many different producers at that time and so many different songs that I wanted to like record like my own interpretations of those particular songs, or like just what I would do with those particular beats if I had them. So like, I mean, like a lot of my favorite rappers, and even some of the songs, they weren't even necessarily rap songs. Like I remember Jeezy came out with a song called Circulate, which sampled Let the Dollar Circulate by Billy Paul. So Don Cannon, who's the producer of the track, I was a huge Don Cannon fan of like his work. I was like, dang, they don't have an instrumental for that. So I listened to the original song, and what I did was just took the instrumental parts of that song and created my own instrumental out of that, you know. So I was like, I just rapped to it. I didn't throw any drums over it or anything. I just took basically like in hip hop, the break beats. I took those parts and made an instrumental out of that so I could make my own song to it. You know what I'm saying? So like I was doing stuff like that. I did the same thing with Let Me Show You the Way to Go by the Jacksons. I just took that part, the instrumental parts of it, made an instrumental out of that. Another song, and it's a theme that's developing with this. I took another song called Bittersweet by MFSB. Anybody who knows the 70s Philly soul sound, MFSB was the backing band for the OJs, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, the 3 Degrees, also like the Manhattans. Even though the Manhattans weren't necessarily Philly soul, I forget who the producer was for the Manhattans. He still used MFSB. MFSB also was backing for the Delphonics, the Stylistics. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But Bittersweet is just an instrumental. And when I say that instrumental pushed my pen and my ability to flow more than probably any other song that I've ever done, it's probably why it's most people's favorite song that I've ever done, because it's so different. It doesn't sound like anything anybody else has ever done. And I just fed off of the title and made it a song about life is bittersweet, but what do you lean more toward, the sweet or the bitter?
Okay. Life is bittersweet. What do you lean more towards, the sweet or the bitter? I will take this opportunity just to do a quick commercial, sir. Give me just a moment. Thank you. Everyone, I want you to know that if you need a photographer, a painter, a graphic designer, a publisher, I have just the person for you. Tanya Stokes of Compassionate Designs. And because you are a confident watcher, viewer, consumer of information, and being that confident you that you are, she's going to give you 50% off if you mention that Marion sent you. All right, let's get back to the show. That information will be in the description box, so you'll be able to take advantage of that. All right, we're back. Look how quick that was.
Boom.
Listen. So in going through everything that you just said for yourself, when did you consider that you were a success at being an independent artist? As I said before, success looks different for everyone. When did you consider yourself to be a successful independent artist?
The moment that I decided to do it. That's when I consider myself a success, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen people who are talented but they don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. And so they allow what they don't know to handcuff them from doing anything at all. And so my thing is, when I decided to be bold enough to become an independent artist, or become an artist period, because for years I was producing for people. I wasn't really looking to be an artist. Like, I would always write rhymes and everything, and I would have song ideas, but it wasn't until like I kept getting the encouragement from, the people in my life. Shout out to my brother Country. He was, the first one. It's funny, he was staying at my house back when I was still living with my mom in Southwest DC. He came to visit me from New York, and he was staying with me, and he, sometimes your friends can be a little nosy, and it's a good thing that they're nosy, because I had my rhyme books laying around. And so he read a song that I wrote called Holding Back the Rage. And I had a lot of strong feelings in that song. And, he read it. He was like, bro, like this is you. I was like, yeah, I wrote that. He was like, bro, why ain't you rapping? And so for 6 years, it was him trying to get me to the point of like actually rapping myself, but then I had him. I had my wife, my lovely wife. She's on the road right now, but the Mrs. Micah Goings, she was somebody else who gave me a lot of encouragement. And also and I always credit her for this, she actually helped me to flow better. She's not a rapper, mind you, but she gave me 2 prime examples of people to study who know how to ride a beat, because we had a conversation about this the other day when we were talking about the BET Hip Hop Awards, and how hip hop has evolved from rappers chasing the beat. And there's a difference. Chasing the beat versus riding the beat. Before the Rakims of the world, rappers a lot of times chase the beat, but Rakim was the one that really introduced riding the beat. And so even though Rakim wasn't the person that one of the 2 people that she told me when we had that conversation, that's the example that she gave. And so when she talks about rappers who rode the beat well, she mentioned Jay-Z and she mentioned Juvenile. They were 2 rappers who just really know how to ride the beat, and they don't bring the same flow each and every song. And so once she told me that, it put more of a battery in my back as a writer. It's like, okay, how can I learn how to ride the beat? And so it was Country, it was my wife, 2 other my homies that I was producing for. Shout out to Ransom Relic, shout out to Clutch the Rapper. They really was like, bro, like, you really got a rapper's voice, or you really could rhyme, you know what I'm saying, for real. And so like, I just took it and I ran with it, and like, that's really what started me on the path of doing it. And so when it comes down to actually putting my best foot forward and saying, you know, I'm gonna do this, to me, that's the success. It doesn't matter how much money I make from doing it. It doesn't matter how many followers or how many fans I have or supporters that I have. The fact of the matter is that I was brave enough to do it. I was bold enough to do it. And I was bold enough to keep doing it, to keep putting in the work somehow, to keep getting better and evolve at my craft. Because as a lyricist, as a storyteller, as a producer, I am much better now at 43, about to be 44 years old in September, than I was at 30 years old when I first really started taking this seriously. And definitely even more so than at 22, 23 when I first started producing for other artists. The success is in the continuity. You got to keep going, you know.
The success is in the continuity. As a lyricist, as a writer, as a producer, you missed one. As a poet.
Ah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, yes. Because that's where it all started from. It started from poetry. Before I was rapping, before I was producing, I was a poet. That's right.
You were a poet. No, sir, you still are a poet. You
yes, I still am.
People actually call upon you to do your poetry. So if you don't mind.
Yes.
Do you have a short, quick poem? Or your favorite lyric from your song?
Oh, favorite lyric.
Like yes. You give your favorite lyric and unpack it. Something that would definitely be something that, wait, that's what that means?
There's so many songs that I could pull from.
Because how many albums do you already have out?
So I have 2 mixtapes, 2 EPs, and 2 instrumental albums. But a full-length album of original material, that's what's next. So it's a lot of material, and I have a bunch of features. So it's a lot of material out there.
Okay. Let's pick it. What's the lyrics?
I'm trying to remember the lyric that I said. So, I know the song. I'm trying to remember what I said. Because it's like I have so many lyrics in my head. My man Illville said they all classics. And shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate everybody for tapping in. I always got to shout out my folks that's tuning in. I appreciate y'all so much. Being a raving mad victim like a battle Big Ben. God told me choose your sword carefully. I pick pens. Now I'm going hard. Every single stroke I extends. Yeah, but I'm trying to remember, because I have to give some context for the line. So yeah, I said being a raving mad victim like I battle Big Ben. God told me choose your sword carefully. I picked pens. Now I'm going hard. Every single stroke I extends. So this is an opportunity for me to kind of sort of do what I did on my Maximum Sentence podcast.
Yes.
So being a raving mad victim like I battle Big Ben. So the song is in context of the lame person at the pool. And Jesus told him to pick up his mat. And so it was a song basically to myself, me calling myself to the carpet and saying, you know what? No, I have to pick up my mat and I have to do this, because there's been so many times that I've wanted to give up at whatever, but specifically music. I can't tell you how many times I done quit in my head. And God is telling me the whole time, like, no, you can't quit. Like every time you think you want to quit, I'm going to put something in your face. I'm going to put somebody in your presence and you're not going to be able to quit. So all of that quitting you talking about, that sounds cool. I'm going to give you the choice. You have the free will to choose to quit. But guess what? Let me just throw this little monkey wrench in the game just when you think you're going to quit. Let me put this person in your path. Let me put this person that's going to help you to get to this level with this, you know? So it's like, I could never lay by the pool and just claim like I was lame. It's like, no, you're not lame. Pick your mat up, keep it moving. So that's why I said being a Raven mad victim, like I battle Big Ben, which is a play on words because the Baltimore Ravens were always losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And at the hands of Big Ben Roethlisberger. You know what I'm saying? So that's where that line comes from. Rude. So
rude.
Look, I was very happy when the Ravens finally beat the Steelers. I was very, very happy about that. I'm not a Steelers fan. You know, my favorite AFC team has always been the Raiders. So, you know, that's another story. Another day, the Immaculate Reception. You know, I'm not even gonna go there. Not even gonna go there. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but then of course, you know,
give me the lyric. Okay, finish and then give me the lyric again, and let me see if I see it.
Yeah. So then, God told me choose your sword carefully. I picked pens. You know, like being a black man in America, we have a lot of different choices of the weapons that we can choose. You know, a lot of dudes pick their fists. They pick a gun. They pick what's in their pants, use that as a weapon. That's another weapon that could be used.
My God.
They can use their tongue sharply, because life and death are in the power of the tongue.
Yes, sir.
So it's not just choosing the pen, but it's also choosing what I do with the pen. Yes. You know what I'm saying? That's really the power in choosing that as my weapon of mass construction, not destruction.
I'm sorry. What weapon is this again?
It's a weapon of mass construction, not
God.
destruction. So.
Let them use you.
Yes.
My weapon of mass construction, not destruction.
That's right.
So, in the whole thing of construction, collaborations, what do you think about them? As far as music, it for me, it's very important.
Absolutely.
It kind of gives me the independence because
yes.
there are components in being an artist that are more challenging for me and easier for others. So when I find people that I mesh with, those collaborations work. How have collaborations worked for you? What fruit have you seen from them?
Oh, collaborations are everything for me. I got to shout out my brother. He's in the comments right now. I got to shout out a couple people that's in the comments when it comes down to collaboration. My man, DJ Shane. Interestingly enough, if you go on Apple Music, the first two songs that come up in terms, like if you search AJ Throwback, the first two songs that come up in Apple Music are Hustle and Motivate and Sway, Queen Swag. Both of these songs I'm featured on with my brother DJ Shane. When I say this brother, like he understands who to put on what songs, and I study how he approaches it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's always about building up the community. He's always about collaboration. He's always about working with people. He always puts my name in certain spaces, and I do the same thing for him as well. You know what I'm saying? Like when I haven't been able to do certain DJ events, I've floated him some business. You know what I'm saying? He's floated some business my way. We look out for each other like that. You know what I'm saying? My man, Radio Rick, he's also in the comments, who's also a beneficiary of Shane's ability to kind of sort of unite people and bring people together. Rick is the same way, you know what I'm saying? Like collaborating with Rick, people think I know a lot about music. We call him Rickopedia. When I tell you my man Rick knows so much about music that even I don't know, it's like I'll just sit back and I'll be quiet and I'll let him speak on. I'm like, man, I didn't even know that, you know. So those type of collaborations. My man Illville, the producer, he's also in the comments. Illville wanted me, he has this thing called the comeback challenge, and so he flipped Mama Said Knock You Out by LL Cool J, and he added a new fresh like flavor onto it. And so I think it's up over 75 artists who have participated in this comeback challenge, and I was one of the people to participate in it. that collaboration helped to sharpen my pen even more at a time when I needed my pen to continue to be sharpened. My sis also in the comments, Lady Crawley, like collaborating with her, she actually put a battery in my back to do Flowers Friday again on a more so, and I'm not gonna say anything more, but she just put a battery in my back to keep doing it. And I'm gonna just leave it at that. She just put a battery in my back to keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not throwing any more information other than that out there. But she constantly speaks life into me. You know, and this is somebody that I met watching another show, watching another program, and like we have built a relationship since then. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with Illville. Like all of these relationships that I've built, and these are just some examples. There's so many examples of like the collaborations that I've had. I got to shout out my man Ryan Lucas. I'm part of the Fresh Tribe. Like him bringing me to be a part of that collective. I'm so like just blessed to be a part of that collective because it's just so many different artists who have different sounds, but we all move independently. That's the beautiful thing about it. Like when you talk about the independent spirit, that collective really embodies the independent spirit. I think of my brothers of sound. Shout out to Hez, shout out to Bigger Bricks, shout out to Rob Rise on Belief. Like these are brothers that like we kind of sort of all united over a video that I put together, and these are people that some of them knew each other, some of them didn't know each other, but now we've constantly done work together because of just one person deciding to say, hey, I think these people would go good together, let's put them together, you know. So those are just a few examples, you know. And I gotta shout out my man Ray Gideon Peoples. He does the Return to Black Broadway movement. And when I say collaboration, I never thought that in my entire life that I would be on the same song with the dude who made a DC legendary song, One Track Mind. You know what I'm saying? Like Stanky Dink. You know what I'm saying? To be on the same track with Stanky Dink. Like I never saw that for like my path as a rapper. You know what I'm saying? But to say that, to be able to have done that song with him, and also just to be able to commune with him, everybody that was involved in that song, everybody that's been involved with the whole Return to Black Broadway movement, to be involved in all of these collaborations, without them, I wouldn't be where I am. You know, without radio, because radio is also an important part of the collaboration process. Shout out to Ransom Relic again. Shout out to Coach Taylor. Shout out to the good Reverend Dr. Gangsta B, as I like to call him. Shout out to my sis, Lady Antoinette, my Breakout Kings family. Shout out to my brother, Ramsey Brown, that was on the Balanced Act radio show with me. All of these people that I've collaborated with over time, if I didn't have these collaborations at these different levels of my career as an artist, as a producer, as a radio show host, as somebody that's in media, I would not be where I am today. Because that's why I said from the outset, independence does not mean doing it all by yourself. You have to interact with people. You have to connect with people. You got to get off the porch, so to say. Like you got to be outside. You can't just, you know, like be in your own little corner, be a hermit or whatever. It's like, no, you have to put yourself out there. You have to meet people. You have to connect with people. You have to take a genuine interest in what other people are doing outside of what you do. I'm going to say that one more time. You have to take a genuine interest in what other people are doing outside of what you do. And the reason why I say that, because I can't tell you how many times I see artists who they want to be so focused on what they're doing that they don't pay attention to anything else going on. Like, I'll be honest, one of the things I hate hearing is when artists say, I don't listen to nobody else while I'm recording an album. I don't listen to no other artists. It annoys me to no end. And I understand everybody has their own process. But I also feel like it's not necessarily that you need to know what else is going on, but it's a thing of, okay, well, how do you stay connected to what's going on? You know what I'm saying? How do you stay connected to the community if you're not a part of it? if you're not listening to anybody else but what you're doing, or the people that's making music with you? How do you know that you might not want to work with other artists that you haven't even given a chance because they're not in your circle, or they don't typically sound like what you listen to? Like, how do you broaden your horizons as an independent artist? Like, you grow your independence by growing your community. You become more powerful as an independent, to your point, Marion. To your point, you grow your power as an independent artist by growing your community, by expanding your tribe, by and looking at the people who are pouring their energy into you as supporters and not fans. I'm very careful of using the word fan. I don't like using the word fan because fans keep you cool while you're hot. Supporters keep you grounded.
Fans keep you cool while you're hot. Supporters keep you grounded. My Lord. Yep. You said that. You said that, and if anybody didn't understand, I don't know what to tell you. If you didn't understand, I don't know what to tell you. Sir, you are a gem, a gift, a poet. One last thing. I got one last. Old school versus new school. Which one you with? Because I'm with old school. I'm with old. What you with?
I mean, naturally, I'm gonna be with old school, because it's like it's what raised me, But that's no knock to the new school, because I always like to hear something new. But to that point, there is so much old school music out there that it's always gonna be new to somebody. There's so much music that I have yet to discover, and it's something about the musicianship, the organic feel of old school music that you kind of sort of get with certain newer artists, but because so much of it has already been done, that it's hard to get that same feeling. But I always say, when a lot of people say there's nothing new under the sun, I'm like, no, but you're new under the sun. So it's all about tapping into that newness. Yeah. So, but to answer your question, yeah, old school. Old school. Yeah, old school. Yeah.
All right, yeah. Old school, AJ Throwback. Thank you for being here with us. I'm just honored by the fact that you took the time out of your busy schedule. Sir, you booked and busy.
Yes.
You stay booked and busy.
Yes.
I just want you to take this opportunity to tell everyone just the list of things that you do, nice, concise, and let them know how they can get the opportunity to work with you.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to express this. So once again, my name is AJ Throwback. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, I'm the founder, CEO of Balance and Act Music and Media LLC. And of the many things I do, I am a recording artist, I'm a music producer, I'm a songwriter, I am a music curator, and a music experience facilitator, or as I like to say, a fancy way of saying DJ. It's just branding difference, that's all. I also have my own merchandise line. So, I create fashion as well. So I have all of these different things, and the best way to work with me is just hit me up. Be serious about what you do. You can find all of my stuff at my website, which is bammllc.net, which is right at the bottom of the screen. Once again, that's bammllc.net. You can send me an email at info@bammllc.net. Let me know what you need. If it's something, whether or not, you want a feature, you like how I rap and you want me on your song, just hit me up. I'm always willing to collaborate as long as, the subject matter is something that I can get up with. Production, hit me up. I give my prices when you hit me up, because I'm not throwing my prices out there until I know that you're serious about it. In terms of DJing, I do DJ. I don't DJ as much as I did at one point, but I do have services. I DJ in person. I also, much like I did for my cousin's family reunion this upcoming weekend, I can do prepared mixes. So however long you need a mix for, if it's for something that's for an hour, if it's something that's for 4 hours, no matter how long it is, you let me know in advance. I'll let you know my price. We can work together, put it together. I like to curate playlists. One of the biggest things for me is curating a playlist around the clientele. So I'm not going to sit there and make something that's for like younger people and throw a whole bunch of 70s, 80s music in it. So my thing is crafting the music experience around you and your audience and who is going to be at your event. And that's also part of my music curation as well. I've also been a podcast host, a radio show host, and all of that stuff. I'm actually on a sabbatical right now, but I will be getting back to that stuff momentarily. That's been the biggest thing. But also, and this is something that we got to talk about when Marion comes back. I plan on yes. Remember, we were supposed to talk about the interview seminars. Training people how to be better at interviews, because everybody's seen it. They've seen interviews and it's like, they could have did a little bit better than that. They could have dug a little bit deeper with those questions. You know what I'm saying? Like they could have really researched the person that they were interviewing and not asked like the perfunctory questions. You know what I'm saying? The run of the mill questions. I plan on, and this is something that I want to, hold on, make sure I got my direction right, because, you know, with yes. You always got to point the opposite direction when you on these cameras. But, you know, this is something I definitely want to do with my sister, is train people in how to be better interviewers when it comes to media, you know what I'm saying? Or better at conversation, because I don't like to brand it as interviews. I like to brand it as conversations. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just glorified conversations. That's all interviews are. And so it's really just teaching people, because there are a lot of people that want to do it, but they don't really know how to do it. And really the bottom line is that you just have to do your research, do your part, take it seriously, and be curious. And also think, how would you want to be interviewed if somebody were interviewing you?
Yes.
It's really that simple. So I want to do a seminar when it comes down to that. And I, like I said, I would love to do it with my sister right here. Yes, you. Oh, yeah, you. Point both the fingers that way. Boom, 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 boom.
Wow, that's going to be awesome. I also want people to know that they can follow you.
Yes, they can follow me at AJ Throwback on Facebook and Twitter, and at a.j.throwback on Instagram and TikTok. If you want to find me at any of these places, just hit me up on Instagram. I'm always on Instagram. The other ones are a little tricky these days, but I'm always on Instagram. So definitely hit me up. I do respond back, as long as you're not on that weirdo type stuff, you know, like you're trying to, you know, sell me some weed, or, you know, sell some hair bundles, like, or talking about Forex or Bitcoin and, you know, all of that. Nah. But if you on the up and up, yes, I do accept follows and I follow back. So I appreciate everybody for supporting, and I appreciate everybody for just taking the time to be interested in what I got to say, you know.
Yes. So. Listen, interested in what you got to say. All of the knowledge and wisdom that you just dropped for an independent artist to understand. Independence, while it's priceless, it's not free. But I like that you expounded on, but you don't have to do it alone.
Right. Absolutely.
You don't have to do it alone. Thank you for the blueprint that you gave everyone to be able to know, okay, these are the things that I need. This is where I can get started. Like he said, all his information will definitely be in the description box. He gave you everything. I just want to thank you for being here. But before you go anywhere, I'd like to know if you could give confident tips to the artistry of being independent.
Absolutely. That's actually pretty easy. The biggest tip that I can give anybody when it comes to the artistry of being an independent artist is be yourself, be your most authentic self, and be it unapologetically. There are so many carbon copies of artists out here. I always think about something that Ferrari Simmons, who he's a DJ in Atlanta. He also has a podcast that he does called The Cheat Code with Kingpin and Wendy Day. And one of the things that he said is that a lot of artists send him music and they sound like Future. And his whole thing is like, well, if I wanted an artist that sound like Future, I could just get Future. So if you're an independent artist out here, don't try to sound like anybody else or be like anybody else but yourself. Every last one of us have different fingerprints. Nobody has the same set of fingerprints. So if God made us that way that we don't even have the same set of fingerprints, then there's no reason that any one of us who are independent artists to try to sound like anybody else. Find your sound, figure out your sound. If you have to sit with yourself and understand what it is that you do best, take that time to work on yourself personally so that when you get to the professional realm, it's so much easier because you don't have to try to do so much work to figuring it out. Granted, you're going to constantly be figuring yourself out along the way in this journey of life, in this journey as an independent artist. But as long as you remain true to who you are and keep that artistic integrity, you can't lose. And that is my confident tip for, the artistry of being an independent artist.
My goodness, that is your confident tip of being an independent artist. All right. So, sir, I'm sad that it's time to get out of here, but
I know.
I want to thank you. You'll be back. It's no problem. Yeah.
Hey, I'm here for it.
I just want to thank you again. Always booked and busy. I appreciate you taking the time, always, to come through for me. I'm grateful. Thank you for coming through and letting independent artists know that this is something that can be done, how it can be done, and that it's never too late.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's never too late.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. And I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody for tapping in tonight. I see my man, shouted him out earlier, Ramsey Brown. He a little late, but it's all good. You could look at the replay, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I definitely want to make sure that I also shout out. I didn't get to shout him out earlier, but my man J Soul Radio, he was in the chat as well. Good brother right there. When I talk about people who collaborate, like you meet through collaborations, when I say this brother is so supportive of what I do, like he's just so supportive, and everybody who's been in this chat, they're so supportive. So I just appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. And once again, I have to give you your props for the Confident You podcast. This is an amazing podcast. Like I said, it's so professional. It's so polished for being somebody that's just starting only on episode 18, but you would never know it because it's like you've been doing this for years. And I just salute you and all that you do, and just letting God lead you all the way. You know what I'm saying? This is nothing but God's work at play when it comes to you. And I just appreciate you, and I love you, my sister. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And AJ Throwback, I just wanted to let you know my favorite song of yours.
Okay.
Drums, please. Jason's lyric.
Ooh, yes. Shout out my baby boy, who's not such a baby anymore.
Right.
Yeah, he's got his daddy's feet for sure.
Okay.
You got some dogs, we got to spend money on them sneakers all the time.
That is so adorable. Oh my goodness. Thank you again for being here. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And
right. Well, sorry. He said it's my pleasure. I heard him, y'all. I'm quick draw. These two fingers right here, they're quick. I don't mean to be. He knows I love him. I thank you, everyone, for taking the time to get this information, to gather this wisdom, to know what you need to do to be an independent artist. Because as he said, you're never late as long as you arrive. And the success is when you decide to do it. So let's go out and do that. Please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, follow, hit the notifications, do all those YouTubey things for Confident You podcast. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Marion Swingler, and also on Instagram at Confident You _podcast. Why _podcast? Because there is so much more to come for Confident You. And don't forget, if you are, or you know someone who is in the throes of domestic violence, this is someone that we have partnered with, and I have vowed to make sure that every episode has the information here for anyone who is in this situation or knows someone in this situation or viewing the situation and not really sure of knowing what to do. You can contact Bethany House. The number is in the description box, and the National Domestic Violence Hotline. All right, that hotline number is 1-800-799-SAFE. And for Bethany House, that number is 1-888-80-HELPS with an S. So that's 1-888-804-3577. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve you tonight. And just in case you didn't know, the soundtrack that you hear playing under the episodes, yeah, that's AJ Throwback. All right. Have a great evening, everyone. See you next time in the next episode. Thank you for taking the time. Hope that you learned something.